Hi, and welcome to the latest in IR Magazine's Women in IR video series. Today we're joined by Deb Wasser from Edelman Communications. Thanks so much for joining us, Deb.
Thanks, Ben. Great to be here.
And so before we dive into the subject matter, could you just give us a bit of a background on your career both as an IR practitioner and as a consultant?
Sure. So I started out a long time ago as an investor relations consultant for what was a very large international financial communications firm. I started out right out of college, so I sort of learned investor relations on the job. And I was there for quite a while, doing all different industries, market caps, different types of companies, a lot of global work. Then I went in-house for a technology company for almost 17 years. I headed up corporate communications, investor relations, and marketing communications for a small, which became a SMID cap over time, which was fantastic, a technology company. And then after doing that for quite a long time, 17 years, I decided to try the consultancy gig again as a way to really expand out my knowledge again and really have enjoyed that new experience again, which is quite different than it was a long time ago.
Sure, I can imagine. Thank you. So, as you know, IR Magazine's recent research uncovered that female IR professionals are less likely to get the sort of very top IR roles, and that they're also less likely to be paid over $250,000 even if they are in the top roles. That has surprised quite a few people. What was your sort of reaction when you first heard of those results?
So first reaction was stun, disbelief. When you think about it more, I did a couple of thoughts there. First of all, we're sitting here in 25 Broadway, directly across from the Fearless Girl, the State Street's kind of iconic symbol now of women in Wall Street. And sort of when you think about it, I guess from a very large picture, women are fighting for equal pay and equal leadership roles, and there's still a glass ceiling. So from a very high level, shouldn't be so surprising. But it did surprise me to hear that in investor relations, especially because I am a female who's been successful for a long time. So it really surprised me. I know a lot of female investor relations officers in the top jobs. I was one myself for a long time. I have friends across the country and globally who are female leaders. We do share comp information because we're good friends. We've known each other for a long time. So I was pretty surprised by both the lack of females in leadership as well as by the compensation, that there's still a disconnect. It wouldn't appear to me that would be the case.
Okay, excellent. And, when we talk about sort of leadership and career development, mentorship is something that comes up quite often. Do you have any examples from your own career of occasions where you've benefited from a sort of a mentor-mentee relationship, and anything you can share with us from that kind of a relationship?
Yeah, sure, Ben. So obviously mentors are very important. I have had mentors, both male and female, in my career. I'd say the most important ones to me have been the CEO mentors that I've had and CFO mentors, which in this job is very, very important in terms of being able to learn how to listen. I'm a really good talker, and sometimes I don't listen as well. So over my career, I've learned to try to become a better listener, and also how to influence, especially in the boardroom when you're trying to influence senior leaders. So I think those are skills that I've learned from mentors over the years. In terms of female mentors, I've had quite a few in my life, both on the consultancy side early in my life, and also just females that I know that have been CEOs of public companies. And probably the best tidbit I ever got was from one CEO who said to me, women have to ask for what they want in business. And I think that is a very good piece of advice, and she gives speeches on this topic. And I think a lot of us don't necessarily ask for what we want as much as men do. So if that's my one mentor pick of the day.
Sure. Excellent, thank you. And so if you were talking to an IR professional just starting out now, particularly a female IR professional, what advice would you give them in terms of their career development? And would that differ at all to the advice that you would give a young male IR professional?
So investor relations is a cross-disciplinary function, right? It's a little bit of communications, it's a little bit of marketing, it's a lot of finance, it's a lot of legal, it's governance. There's a lot of things you need to know to be successful in investor relations. So we see people obviously newer in their career, but also who want to come into investor relations from other fields. And we see that all the time. And I'm on the board of the New York chapter for NERI, and I'm also on the committee that planned the conference this year. And frankly, I actually probably do 2 to 3 calls a week. I probably shouldn't tell my bosses that, but I do quite a few calls with people who are trying to get into investor relations or looking to change careers, because it really is it's the best job in a company, frankly. And so I think there's just a lot of interest in the field right now for various reasons, Wall Street shrinking, et cetera. So my advice is you can't really skip any boxes, right? You can't just be good in finance and just know how to value a stock. You can't just be a good writer. You can't just know the regulations. You have to check off all the boxes. And so I would also give a little bit of a plug to NERI, because we've recently started this IR certification, which I did take the test and thank goodness passed after having done this for a really long time. But what it's based upon the domains of investor relations, and it's kind of making sure you've checked all the boxes, because it is such a multidisciplinary function that I just don't think there are any shortcuts. So you should probably, my best advice is understand your background, understand your strengths and weaknesses, and then go figure out, how do I go fill in the boxes that I may not know enough about.
Excellent. Now, you mentioned your involvement with NERI and the New York chapter of NERI. I know that you've been instrumental in launching the NERI Next Gen sort of group. So could you tell us a little bit about sort of what that is, what it's hoping to achieve, and how it's going so far?
Sure. So NERI New York chapter actually started a new program called the Next Gen Initiative. It is just a pilot so far, so the national organization does not offer Next Gen yet, but we started it in New York really because when I joined the board of the New York chapter 2 years ago, I looked at the membership and went to a couple of cocktail parties and some programs and realized everybody looked like me. And I had some colleagues and friends who were newer to their careers who actually told me they felt out of place because they were clearly significantly younger than me. So we asked a lot of questions. We actually had a workshop, and we kind of got feedback from the group, and we found out that it was a little pricey for people early in their careers, and they also just didn't feel comfortable. So we decided that we'd go to NERI National. We worked out a really great value proposition for our chapter to be able to offer these people a way to get into NERI a little bit less expensively, and also to then build this group over time. And so far we've got 55 members of Next Gen in New York, which is 15% of our chapter, which in 2 years is not, actually less than 2 years, not so bad. And what we've done for them is we actually, in addition to making them feel comfortable, we do programs that are really specifically geared toward this Next Gen audience, people who are newer to their careers. We define that as under 5 years in IR and newer to the workforce. And so we've had a couple of programs. We've had some IR panels. We've had topics on M&A. We've had just sort of general how to do investor relations sessions. And then we also do special networking events for them. So it's been a big success. NERI National is watching us, and they expect us to continue to give them insights. And perhaps this will get launched more broadly across NERI chapters around the country.
Excellent. And then one final question. You mentioned the Fearless Girl Outside. Obviously, that's fronted by State Street, and we've sort of seen several large sort of institutional investors coming out with positions on diversity now, particularly as it relates to board diversity and also in the sort of executive ranks. How important is it for the IR community as the sort of interface with the investment community to kind of reflect the diversity they're looking for higher up in the sort of company?
I think it's really important, and one thing that I should probably mention is I work for Edelman, which is the world's largest public relations firm, and I run the IR practice. It's fascinating. When I joined the firm 2 years ago, one of the many reasons why I decided to join was because the CEO, Richard Edelman, had started a new initiative, because you'd be shocked once again that even at the world's largest PR firm, we were underrepresented women leadership across the company. We were less than 30%. And so the target is to get our leadership over 50% to be women, and we're only at 40. So we're actually short of our goal. And so he just posted a blog recently in the last couple of weeks that is all about why, and it has a lot to do with sort of global demographics that affect us in different parts of the world where women are not as senior in their careers yet. So it's fascinating actually to look at why that is. But I think Edelman's a great example of a firm that works very hard to have a very inclusionary culture and a very diverse culture, and we have taken this on. We have a group called Gwen, which is also for women leaders in the company, and so I think you need to practice what you preach, and that is certainly something that my firm takes seriously, and so it's kind of fun to see that right where I work.
Thank you. I think it's absolutely the case that for the IR community as well as the sort of professional services community to be able to sort of practice what you preach. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us, Deb. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, thank you.